Hello and welcome to DC Velocity's Thought Leader series, produced in conjunction with MHI. My name is Mark Solomon. I'm Senior Editor at DC Velocity Magazine. Today we are honored to be joined by Joel Sutherland. Joel is Managing Director of the Supply Chain Management Institute at the University of San Diego. He's had 30 years of experience in the supply chain, as holding many executive level positions, including Toyota, International Paper, ConAgra, Sealand Services, J.B. Hunt, and eventually forming a company that became known as Transplace. Joel, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
Talent and innovation, two words that have been on many people's lips the last 2-3 days. Are they intertwined, or are they really separate skill sets?
That's the question. They're intertwined. Everything is intertwined, I think. We say that, we like to say at the university that supply chain is the story of everything, and that integrates people, it integrates processes, technology, and I think that in terms of being innovative, we have to look to the future. So we need the talent to be able to see into the future in terms of what those opportunities are going to be, and then be able to execute that with the talent that we've got. So they're definitely intertwined.
You've mentioned that there's a difference between product innovation and supply chain innovation. Can you explain the difference?
Probably the best way to look at this is to consider two companies that represent that. One would be Apple, and Apple absolutely is a product innovator. My son is an industry analyst covering mobile technologies, and I know when Steve Jobs was sick and ultimately passed away, he was asked the question, what's going to happen to the innovation at Apple? And he says, you know what, they have got 5 years of innovative products, so when anybody catches up to them and says, oh, we've matched Apple, well, the next thing they do is unleash that new product, that new innovative idea. In terms of innovation in the supply chain, it's what you do with processes. It's how you apply technology, or how you apply these new technologies to make improvements. And the best example for that would be Amazon. Amazon, they do make products, but they're really focused on supply chain innovation. And now they're taking a look at things like drone deliveries and all kinds of things for the future. So they're absolutely they absolutely represent an innovator in supply chain management.
You mentioned that many CEOs consider it a priority. They don't back it up, though. We heard a presentation yesterday about innovation being the most overly used word in the English language, where it has relevance but is so overused that it could fade into irrelevance. Why do you think companies have not followed up their words with actions?
Because it's hard. That's how it starts. It's not easy to be innovative because people are so focused on the day-to-day, on survival. But an example with my history is working for Formica. One of the challenges they had was they considered themselves untouchable. They had 80-90% market share in the US, and they failed to be innovative. They said, we don't need to be. We've got 90% market share. A little company called Wilson Art comes along and says, how can we beat Formica at their own game? We make the same product, sell at the same price, same distribution channels, but now we can do better in terms of order to delivery cycle time. And so where Formica was offering 6 to 8 weeks, Wilson Art came along and says, we'll give you guaranteed 2 weeks or less order to delivery cycle time to jobbers and retailers that sold their product or used their product. And so I think it's absolutely critical that companies don't consider it hard, they consider it a necessity. They have to think of not just survival, but they have to think of how can we differentiate to gain competitive advantage. How can we be innovative so that we gain market share or steal market share the way that Wilson Art did? How can we be innovative so that we don't fade away? We don't become an X company of some kind. And so they say it's hard. They say they don't have the resources, they don't have the money, and they say it's hard. It's just too much work.
You mentioned and have mentioned that supply chain talent, acquiring it, keeping it, will get even harder over the next 5 years. Why is that, and what can be done to perhaps reverse that trend?
I think one of the challenges we've got, speaking from an academic role, is that we don't have enough educators to teach supply chain, and it's getting more complex as we become global, as we add complexity. There's greater risk in managing our global supply chains, yet at the same time, we don't have the faculty at the universities to be able to teach supply chain management, and we don't. And at the same time, we have more and more students that are pursuing degrees, that want degrees in supply chain management. So I think that what needs to be done is we need to be able to produce the right talent. It's not just producing more talent, it's producing the right talent. And what I think all universities have to do is give students the opportunity to get an experiential education. That means internships, that means projects, that means faculty that's not necessarily just focused on theoretical research, but focused on practical research that industry can put to good use.
I guess what role should industry play in this?
You know, it's interesting because I talk to industry and they say, we love the students that have internships. We love those students that have some experiential education in terms of projects. And I said, great. How many internships or how many projects do you offer? Well, we don't really have the opportunity. It's too hard. We can't really define the kind of projects that we need for those students. And I say, but that's what you want. If you want to play in the sandbox, you also have to offer those internships and provide those projects that get our students engaged and get our faculty engaged in real industry projects. So that's a big opportunity for industry to play a bigger part, as well as going into the classroom, presenting to students, so students and faculty really get that exposure, to being guest lecturers in those classrooms, to coming to conferences that more and more universities are offering so that they're really on campus, not just at recruiting time, but really on campus so they get to know the talent and structure the curriculum. I always like to say that a university is like a manufacturing company in the sense that we produce a product. We produce talent, supply chain talent, and if we produce the wrong talent, then industry is not going to see value in them and they're not going to hire that talent. So industry can play a big role in making sure that we produce the right talent for their needs.
Thank you, Joel.
My pleasure.